Now, Tim, you know have experimented with Kinect at the studio and things like that. You like new technologies. I mean, when you look at something like VR, do you look at the storytelling possibilities for that and get excited?
I like anything that like takes away barriers from the player and the experience, you know, like because there's a lot of people that don't play games, they still look at a controller as like it's going to bite them,
Right.
you know, and Kinect was great for getting people like little kids and old people, as anyone can play, you know, those kind of games. And so I think anything that removes that barrier is appealing to me for sure.
Now, this stuff, you know, obviously it seems like none of it's really coming out this year. How far away do you guys think it will be until, you know, the person watching this is going to be able to get one of these things?
We'll all look at Cliff.
Yeah. Cliff. What are they telling you,
I
Cliff?
can't violate non-disclosure agreements. I honestly don't know if they even know yet. Because again, if they were to set a date and they were to ship it, I think VR has one more shot to really make the leap to the masses. Otherwise, we're going to be back in like 1991 again, and it's going to become like the joke, like the Virtual Boy, right?
Yeah.
Go back and watch Lawnmower Man; it doesn't hold up. But it drives me crazy when people try and compare it to 3D televisions or 3D projectors and whatnot. It's not apples to apples. They're completely different things, and it's not just a gimmick. Right, and the same even with 3D movies, you know, like the ones that do it best, like Gravity, are the ones you go see. But not everything needs to be in 3D. But same thing with Oculus. Not everything is a proper fit for Oculus. You need kind of language.
Certain experiences, right? And it's not just porting games
like a
over.
scuba diving game, or you know, there's a video that was on. It went viral a couple days ago of like Superman with a GoPro on.
Yeah.
And the guy's like bursting around. I'm like, I want that on virtual reality.
Or being in a classroom full of porpoises and copying your answers from the.
Yep.
You've seen that one?
I haven't seen that.
You guys can think I'm
gosh.
crazy if you haven't seen that one.
Okay.
It happened. I didn't imagine
It's
it.
a real thing.
Yes.
And part of it is like, how do you put a game around it, right? Because a lot of them now are just, you know, there's very valid just experiences. Like Sony has a thing which you're walking around Mars. I mean, there's no game. It's just sort of an experience. So it's like, what does game design even look like in the world of VR, right?
I mean, game design in general, it's an Ouija board of developers moving it, the collective design together. You're panning for gold.
Ghosts are doing it?
They're exactly, and it's a larger pan this time, and you know they're just starting from scratch with it.
And I almost wonder, like, the old, you know, like the adventure game style of a slower paced game where you're walking around interacting with objects.
You're like in the older developers.
The
I mean, in some ways, it's the
no, but I
same.
think is there an emergence of that where that actually will work better for VR because you're sort of talking
Like a
more to
Myst
characters.
like
Slow,
game.
yeah, exactly.
It's like
slower
it's
paced.
in some ways the same question that I'm always thinking about. Like with games for me, it's about how do I make someone want to stay in my world for a long time, and that's just another more immersive way of being in the world. And a lot of things about games are really just tricks to get people to want to just hang out in your world longer.
Yep. Well, hopefully people will be hanging out
In my
the
old world.
VR worlds from all three of you guys. Cliff, are you going to do a VR game?
I still think for VR to fully be embraced by the masses, I still think it's a little bit of a ways out.
Okay.
So if I'm able to get something up and going in the next year, I said before, you know, probably be a PC first-person shooter initially, but I would like to eventually have a handful of people, just 3 or 4, just playing with it, and just kind of scratching the surface. And then if they hit gold, then start shifting people over and do VR focused.
We did some in our game jam. You know, we did that Amnesia Fortnite game
Yeah.
jam. And like you were saying, the clever thing about how Oculus handled it is they didn't come to our business people with Oculus. It was like the programmers had them on their desks before we knew what we're like, what is that? What are you guys doing? And so when we had our game jam, like a lot of the pitches were like, it's going to be, there were a lot of Oculus pitches, and one of them totally was implemented, and it was really, it shows both how powerful it is and how many more things you're going to have to think about so people don't get sick. You know, like if you're moving around and if you move the wrong way, you start to.
Well, to their credit, they've solved that with the latest. They have the kind of the QR codes in the camera, and with the higher resolution and the reduced latency that Carmack has been working on, they kind of have that lateral movement now. Whereas before it was just kind of pitch and yaw, right? And that kind of threw off your inner ear, right?
But you can't have these cutscenes that whip the camera around.
Oh yeah,
because people
no.
just like,
Yeah. So same thing with horror games, right? You can't do Outlast type of experience where there's this guy bearing down on you trying to tear your arms off because people are just going to toss the headset down and break it.
Absolutely.
Any sort of horror has to be super subtle and creepy, right?
Yeah.
No, we'll see, and it's going to be interesting, as new entrants come in, because we've got Sony and who knows who else is out there making stuff. But the biggest thing will be who can get an installed base of these systems, so you guys can afford to make games.
Well, the problem with these shows is the lines for the VR setups are so extraordinarily long. Not only because there's a lot of interest in it, but getting in there and you have to strap it on your head, and then you have to calibrate it, and then you have to figure out the controls. That adds an extra 10 minutes to the entire experience.
and they're gonna be all sweaty when you get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Need
you're
a
gonna
wipe down.
be passing around eye sweat.
Purell. We'll end up getting
You
convention
guys
flu.
you all share sweat, though, right?
Oh yeah, we swap fluids all the time.
All the time. All right, well, when we come back in the bonus round, we're going to talk more about what it's like to be a game developer in 2014. That's next Sunday, right here on GT.